Mr. Squidward, welcome to the night shift.
And hello again, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the MI6 Sports Network's late night sports talk show. That, of course, folks, is The Night Shift on episode number 18 of our program on this election day, 2020, November 3rd, 2020. As always, folks, joined by the fellow late night MI6 co-host, Isaiah Leung from the Garage Studios up in Fremont, California. Yours truly, Callan McClurg, here from the home studio in San Diego. Isaiah, good to see you, man. How we doing tonight?
It's great to see you, Callan. I'm kind of tired. I had a long day. It started out, with me going to McDonald's to get my usual morning cup of coffee, and I forgot my mask. So I was like literally 30 seconds away from McDonald's, had to run back home, get my mask, go back to McDonald's, and then spent I don't even know, like an hour and a half filling out my ballot. And then literally, 3 hours later, I go to the polling place to deliver my ballot. But as usual, I forget my mask again. So I had to, walk 30 minutes or walk like 20 minutes back home, come back home, get my mask, walk back 20 minutes, and then deliver my ballot. And after that, walk back home another 20 minutes. And I'm just feeling drained right now, but hey, it's going great, man. I'm kind of really glad that I did my duty as an American citizen and voted, as you can see on this sticker right here. But yeah, it's been a great day so far, a bit tiring, but I forgot this, Callan. I want to let the audience know. Do we have the breaking news thing right now?
Oh boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have made history. The breaking news is that yours truly has gotten 2 votes in this presidential election. 2 votes. First time ever that a candidate that wasn't even known to be a candidate before Election Day gets any votes for the presidency. I am so proud. History made. Can't wait to do this show.
On that note, folks, as a reminder here for the night shift, again, every Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday, Isaiah and myself come your way to recap all the big games, the big plays, big news of your sports day. And also, we'll get to more of that as the day does, in fact, go on. But again, folks, more so, this program comes your way, again, late Tuesday night, late Saturday night, late Sunday night, to again, in case you folks perhaps have been away from your phone, or again, you've been perhaps at work and not been able to keep track of the sports day and the big news. Can we try our best to come here every Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday night to, again, give you a Cliff Notes version of your day in sports here at 10 o'clock Pacific time each and every Tuesday, and then every weekend as well. And by the way, folks, a quick clarification. Isaiah, get your camera back on here. I wanted to kind of clarify one thing here. We did not call each other to wear orange today either. That was not pre-planned, in case you guys were curious. It just happened to be that way. I grabbed a orange shirt out of my dresser drawer today, and Isaiah put on his famed orange hoodie today. So no, this was not pre-planned before the program started here today on this Tuesday. But again, folks, hopefully though, as Isaiah mentioned, hopefully though, regardless of your stance, but hopefully everyone got out there today, or at least earlier on, and got the votes cast, and again did their due diligence today. And again, hopefully everyone got a chance to do so here today or earlier before November 3rd. With that, Isaiah, no games to really talk about today, of course, with it being a Tuesday night here. But, of course, plenty of news, though, in the NFL as Week 9 approaches on Thursday, and also big news out of baseball, and also 2 very interesting stories from the world of basketball. They will start, though, Isaiah, in the NFL. That, of course, is the huge news concerning the upcoming Saints-Bucks game coming up this weekend, and that will involve Antonio Brown being active for this game between New Orleans and Tampa Bay. Of course, Isaiah, we saw these 2 clubs square off in Week 1 of the season. as New Orleans won at home over Tampa Bay. But, of course, both teams have been still at the top right now of the NFC South division. Isaiah, first of all, before we talk more about the game, what are your thoughts, though, about the Bucs finally activating Antonio Brown again, a guy who's been out of football for the past 2 years and trying to get himself back into playing shape, though? But more so your thoughts about the move, though, by the Bucs to activate Brown for this huge matchup coming up versus New Orleans this weekend.
My thoughts on this is that the rich gets even richer. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they signed Antonio Brown not to beat up on the New York Giants, not to beat up on the Washington football team, not to beat up on the Dallas Cowboys. They signed Antonio Brown to beat the New Orleans Saints, because we talk about, coming into this season, the arms race that was the NFC South. You had the Falcons go out there and get Todd Gurley. You had the Panthers go out there and get one of the best college head coaches, and Matt Rhule, to coach their team, one of the best offensive minds in college football, in Joe Brady to be their offensive coordinator. We know what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did, getting Brady with Mike Evans, Godwin, Leonard Fournette, re-signing Ndamukong Suh as well. And also the Saints, they got Emmanuel Sanders. So it was an arms race in the NFC South. And the Bucs did this to try to go and beat the New Orleans Saints on Sunday, because the New Orleans Saints, we know how many weapons they've got on offense. They've got Michael Thomas. I think he's going to be coming back from injury this upcoming week. We've got Emmanuel Sanders. You have Drew Brees. You have Alvin Kamara. Now the Bucs, you have Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette, who's gotten going once again recently. You've got Ronald Jones, who's been a beast this season. You've got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin's going to be back, Antonio Brown now, Rob Gronkowski. I mean, it's going to be a fun showdown on Sunday between these two clubs. And for the Buccaneers' sake, they don't need Antonio Brown to be the Antonio Brown from 2 years ago. They just need Antonio Brown to be half of what he was a couple of years ago, and they will be fine because they have so much weapons on offense. So, I mean, I like the signing by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I can't wait for this matchup on Sunday. It's going to be so juicy.
It's going to be juicy. It's going to be one, of course, that Tampa Bay pretty much has to win to force that season series split. I mean, if you lose this game to New Orleans, you're staring down the barrel of having to, leapfrog New Orleans. You can't afford to be tied with them in the standings based on the head-to-head tiebreaker that would go to the Saints, and they would get the top overall spot. But I definitely agree, though, Isaiah, with this being the rich getting richer, but also it definitely, though, adds another layer or another weapon on this Tampa Bay offense where, again, they've been somewhat beat up with some injury, as has New Orleans, of course, with their own injury woes, though. But it makes the game of this weekend of much more paramount, I think, and more so, I think, in a game that more so, I believe, Tampa has a bigger sense of urgency to win because, as I mentioned, you can't afford to lose this game and then fall, you get swept in the season series. And if you happen to be tied with New Orleans, guess what? You're not winning the division title because it's going to, it probably, in my mind, I think it does, will boil down, though, as well to the head-to-head tiebreaker that will, of course, give it to the Saints. I do think, though, Isaiah, that probably as of right now, with how it looks with Antonio Brown being active for this game, Isaiah, which offense in your mind do you think you trust more to win this game? New Orleans' offense or a Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay offense with Antonio Brown now in the fold?
I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the reason being is because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense is finally clicking. Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, they, in that first game against the New Orleans Saints, they just didn't have any rhythm going against the Saints defense. But if you've watched the last 2-3 games that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have played, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have really played well on offense, minus yesterday's game against the New York Giants when they got off to a really bad start, but then came back and won that game. The Tampa Bay, like the New Orleans Saints, for me, they just have struggled time and time again this season. Their offense just hasn't looked as smooth as it used to be. So I'm going to put my trust in Tom Brady and this Buccaneers offense, who I think are hitting in the high gear right now as we speak.
I would go with Tampa because they seem to be getting on the same page at the right time, and also for a very big game, those we already have talked about, more so because of the implications, more so that Tampa Bay has got to win this game. They can't afford to lose, as I've already mentioned plenty of times. Again, they lose this game, they lose the season series, and probably, again, would lose the overall season series, again, versus the Saints, and would, again, that would dash their hopes as well, too, of a tiebreaker. Some thoughts here. Joseph writes in, let's go Bucks. Ric Flair woo to go with it. Definitely agree. And Christy about today. Voted a few days ago. I voted earlier on. I want to say voted sometime during last month. But I know that me and my folks voted, though, and got it out of the way very, very quickly. I know that for a fact. And also, real quick, that'll do it for right now. But Chardol is going to say New Orleans will win the game over Tampa Bay. Again, this probably is a game, though, that I think a lot of people will be watching closely, but also a game that will probably be a game that goes down to the wire. It will not be a repeat, though, of that first ever game, though, where we saw Tampa Bay get absolutely shellacked in that first game by New Orleans. It'll be a much closer game. But again, folks, Antonio Brown active for this game for Tampa Bay versus the Saints from Raymond James Stadium over the weekend. With that, Isaiah, Thursday Night Football kicks off Week 9 with the Niners hosting or taking on the Green Bay Packers from Levi Stadium. Both teams coming off of devastating or at least very rough losses this week. But more so, Isaiah, about the game, though. Bit of some concern, though, with Green Bay having 2 players ruled as high risk right now. No COVID-19 test, I believe, have been ruled positive, but more so 2 players have been deemed at risk right now of the perhaps potential COVID exposure. Isaiah, I will say, though, I have been extremely confused, though, by how, in fact, the NFL goes about their COVID business right now in regards to how they actually, I think, go with, ruling games to be moved or suspended or postponed to a different day, though, because I don't know if we've actually heard any rulings about positive test, but now we have a high-risk situation where I don't think, Isaiah, we really have had this issue, I think, bud, pop up yet during the NFL season, but now it's coming up here Week 9. Isaiah, more so about the game itself. I think a lot of people have been very, very, I'd say, concerned, maybe a bit confused, though, more so because what is going to happen as of right now, the game is still set to be played on Thursday night at 5:20 Pacific time. But Isaiah, I think it's a confusing situation, though, more so in my opinion, man, because I don't think we've heard about positive tests being done, but we've had 2 players deemed as high risk right now with Green Bay. Isaiah, give us your thoughts here about what's probably a very, very complicated and very confusing situation involving Week 9 starting game on Thursday.
Well, my thoughts on this game is that when you look at this game, look at each roster for both of the teams. You look at the Niners roster, you look at Green Bay's roster, you're obviously going to think, oh, yeah, with the Niners roster completely in shambles because of injury, that the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers and that explosive offense with Devontae Adams and co., they are going to not only win this game, but they're going to win this game in a blowout. And to that, I say not so fast. And the reason being is that, first of all, as you mentioned, Callan, Green Bay has 2 players that are expected to be out of this game because they are deemed high risk. Jamal Williams, one of their tailbacks, and also AJ Dillon, another one of their running backs. So that means with those 2 running backs out, coupled with Aaron Jones being out, who's the Packers going to turn to as their running back? They're literally going to have to bring someone off the practice squad to serve as their starting running back for Thursday. So I don't think the Packers are going to have any running game going. The 49er defense, I know we've lost a lot of players due to injury, but hey, the 49ers defense has actually done pretty well considering all the injuries in the last 3 games they've played. They've gotten pressure. The secondary has played pretty good. They've played a bunch of bend, don't break defense. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout like everybody is expecting. I know, like, when you look at it, it's Nick Mullins versus Aaron Rodgers. Listen, Nick Mullins, I think, is an upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo. If you watch the film of Nick Mullins, this guy has better footwork than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's got a better arm than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's got better pocket presence than Jimmy Garoppolo. He does better against the blitz than Jimmy Garoppolo, as I highlighted on my Facebook post today when I went back and forth with someone over Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullins versus the blitz in Seattle. I think Nick Mullins is an upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think the Niners offense, given how with all the injuries, obviously they're not gonna, put up a lot of points in that game. But I still think it's going to be a close game. I think the Niners defense can somehow, some way hold the Packers down. And I think Nick Mullins can make some plays in this game. But ultimately, I think Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be too much for this Niners team to handle. I think the Packers win this game by 7 points. But I want to address Kyle Shanahan, and I want to say this to Kyle Shanahan. I think that Kyle Shanahan for Nick Mullins, he's going to be the 49ers starter for the rest of the season. For Nick Mullins to have success, you have to go with a up-tempo offense. Because I watched the game against the Seahawks. Nick Mullins came in and he had immediate success in an up-tempo, no-huddle offense. I'm not saying you go full Chip Kelly mode, but I'm saying you should go up-tempo for most of your plays in that game for Mullins to have success.
Folks, to clarify the whole matter at hand here now, ESPN had this dubbed as high risk, but with no information of positive test, though. But CBS Sports, though, folks, has some more light shed on the story here, as mentioned in regards to the positive or the high-risk individuals with Green Bay. But the game is set to be played, though, regardless, despite the fact, though, that we have had 2 positive tests. We can confirm, folks, via CBS Sports that there were 2 positive COVID-19 tests among the Green Bay Packers. As mentioned, Jamal Williams and rookie linebacker Kamal Martin were designated as high-risk close contact. So perhaps, again, maybe some misconstrued information there. But again, there was 1 positive test, though, as we already have alluded to here, again, with A.J. Dillon. But at the same time, though, 2 individuals were still dubbed as high-risk individuals per, again, reports from CBSSports.com. But I do, though, folks, think that regardless of what maybe does transpire here, is that I do think, though, that that's probably, folks, the biggest confusing situation we have probably had so far this season in regards to how players have been dubbed or labeled. Because me personally, I've not seen any other stories that have come out in regards to positive, or at least players being dubbed as high-risk individuals. I think, Isaiah, we have seen, or at least we've heard, though, man, plenty of times of, we've actually heard about positive tests being done. But Isaiah, I don't really recall, though, hearing about high-risk individuals being accounted for. So, again, some very interesting news, though. But Isaiah, I still call this, though, man, I think you probably agree, though, but would you agree, though, a very confusing situation, though, where, again, we've had just 1 positive test, though, but 2 players ruled high-risk individuals and not actually getting positive tests?
Yeah, I completely agree, Callan. I'm really confused by the NFL rules about, COVID and high-risk situations and all that stuff. I just don't get it. The NFL, they really befuddle me. And there is one rule in particular that I really do not like, and that is exactly how we got into this situation with A.J. Dillon, the Packers running back. So I just found out last week that in the NFL, you get tested on Saturday, you go through a full practice, and then you go home. And then on Sunday, when you go to the stadium, you arrive, you get tested. But those test results, remember how we were talking about how, the NFL, you get tested on Sunday and then you get your results 15 minutes later? Well, that's apparently not true. You get your results back after the game. It comes in the night after the game has finished. So you could honestly be playing that game with COVID and you don't know it. That's exactly what happened to A.J. Dillon. He took the test on Saturday, he got tested negative, and then he goes home, comes back the following morning, takes the test on Sunday before he goes into the stadium to play ball, and the results came back after the game, and he was positive, and he played the game with COVID. So it's really peculiar to me, because if you don't get the results back before you enter the stadium, and you play the game with COVID, you could be infecting not just you, but you could be infecting other people as well and causing a major outbreak in the NFL. So I really believe the NFL should fix that and do what the Pac-12 and the SEC and a lot of the college teams are doing, which is go to a a testing system which allows for 15-minute rapid testing.
Yeah, I think, folks, that a lot of people out there, I think you would agree, folks, regardless of your stance on how on the issues at hand here. But at the same time, though, very confusing time, though, if you are perhaps if you are a football fan, as mentioned, with, games being canceled because of X number of positive tests. But then we have this case here, as mentioned, with the Packers, where we've had one positive test and 2 players deemed high-risk individuals due to, again, close contact, perhaps. But again, Pack and Niners still set to take place, though, on Thursday from Levi Stadium on Fox at 5:20 Pacific time. With that, Isaiah, you already had kind of touched base on it, though. But again, Jimmy Garoppolo's injury seems to be a bit of a bigger concern, though, than it probably was deemed or perhaps talked about after, again, leaving the game on Sunday with a high ankle sprain, again, re-aggravating that injury suffered earlier this year against, or at least back in New York against the Jets or the Giants, one of those 2 ball clubs. And Isaiah, I think the damning revelation came out, though, by Kyle Shanahan during his press conference, though, that this injury is on, quote-unquote, a new level or an all-time high level. Isaiah, this, I think, spells all doom and gloom right now for anybody who, in fact, is a huge or is a Niners fan, though, about how this quarterback carousel has just looked to be over the past several throughout the course of the season. Probably it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse by each passing game. But Isaiah, the injury news to me does not sound good for Garoppolo for the remainder of this season. Isaiah, give us your thoughts here about Garoppolo's injury and what it means for the Niners going forward.
Jimmy Garoppolo is done for the year, and also Jimmy Garoppolo, I believe, has played his final snap as a member of the San Francisco 49ers. Before the season started, the question coming into this season was, is Jimmy Garoppolo the guy moving forward for this franchise? The 49ers, they have a franchise-friendly contract with Jimmy Garoppolo where they could cut him like after this season and not have to eat a ton of money. And yes, the salary cap hit wouldn't be that bad. So this was the year that Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, and the rest of the 49ers regime were going to just sit there and evaluate if Jimmy Garoppolo is the guy moving forward. And so far, he has not lived up to expectation. I mean, this guy is injury prone. He had multiple shoulder injuries with the New England Patriots, and then he comes over to San Francisco, and the guy, he has a great final 5 games of the season back in 2017, 2018, did all right first 2 games, and tears his ACL. And then last season, coming off the torn ACL, he wasn't really asked to do that much. And then this year with the high ankle sprain, I mean, this guy is just injury prone. You cannot count on Jimmy Garoppolo to play a full season in the National Football League. I don't know what's up with this guy, but he's just brittle. He is just brittle, and you just can't count on him. So, and also, Jimmy Garoppolo, I think we've documented his issues on various programs here on the MI6 Sports Network. The guy doesn't have a good arm. He can't drive the football more than 30 yards down the field. The guy always panics and shrinks when other teams bring the blitz. The guy has terrible footwork. The guy he can't throw a deep ball really well. The guy doesn't know when to put a lot of air on the ball to his receivers or tight ends. He doesn't know when to, put just a little bit of air under the ball to his wide receivers and tight ends when he throws the football. So I just don't think he's the future or he's the answer for San Francisco when it comes to their future. I think right now the 49ers should just shut down Jimmy Garoppolo because he's going to be out, 6 to 8 weeks, Callan? Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So right now they played 8 games, and if he misses 6, let's say 7 weeks, he's probably primed to come back the final week of the season. I don't know why you would bring him back in the final week of the season if your team is like 6 and 8 and entering the final 2 weeks of the season, and the season is lost. So I just think the 49ers should make the smart move. Shut him down and, see what you have in Nick Mullins. And, I want to talk to Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins, this is your chance to shine. I know I said that when Jimmy Garoppolo initially went down, but I truly mean it now. This is Nick Mullins' chance to show the world that he is starting quarterback material in the NFL. He's going to be a free agent after this season. He's got he's got 8 games to show the entire NFL and to show the 49ers, hey, I'm a competent quarterback. I can be your future quarterback. And, he can ball out and show that he's the future. Or if the San Francisco doesn't want him, he can be a future, he can be another starting quarterback for someone else in the NFL. But if he, does what he did against Philadelphia, he's going to be a backup for the rest of his career. So these final 8 games of the season is your biggest opportunity in your entire career, Nick Mullins, to show the NFL that you are starting quarterback material.
Isaiah, I do think, though, that at least in my mind, the right way to go, though, is shutting down Garoppolo would be a good idea if the record gets out of control, though. If there's still a fighting chance, if Mullins can get this club and put him on his back and carry them to, a very nice little win streak, or maybe kind of get things going and get this team kind of back in the mix, maybe I consider Garoppolo coming back. But then at the same time, though, you're playing that hot hand, riding that hot quarterback. I think sadly it's a double-edged sword, though, for San Francisco in regards to, sit him out for the rest of the season, maybe just take the nosedive, and tank and go from there. Or at the same time, though, if Mullins can rally with troops, a la Colin Kaepernick post the injury when he first came in, years ago with San Francisco and led that team right to the damn Super Bowl. I mean, who honestly knows what might happen, though? But Isaiah, we'll let you add on to your point, though. But also, I'll have one more question for you before we, in fact, move on, though. But we'll let you add on, though, first.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Callan. It's a double-edged sword. I don't think you can win either way because right now, let's say, or let me put it this way. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo can come back either way because, if you're like you said, if Nick Mullins can't do anything, 49ers are tanking. They go in their final 7 games, they go 1-6 or 0-7. Obviously, you just don't bring back Jimmy Garoppolo because you don't really need to put him in there when you don't have anything to gain. And secondly, if let's say Nick Mullins in the final 8 games of the season or 7 games, considering if Garoppolo comes back that final week, if in that 7-game stretch he goes like 5-2, there's no way you'll bring back Jimmy Garoppolo as well because you have to ride the hot hand in Nick Mullins and the whole team would be galvanized under Nick Mullins. So I just don't see any chance that Garoppolo returns to the 49ers. I think that sadly he's played his final snap as a member of the San Francisco 49ers.
Isaiah, do you believe that a quarterback becomes priority number 1 over the offseason in Santa Clara if things do not get better between Mullins, Garoppolo, or if need be, C.J. Beathard?
Yeah, I do, because I just think that this team is way too talented to take a nosedive and just rebuild. We have Nick Bosa coming back. D Ford, I don't know what they're going to do with him. There's reports that he has a neck injury and might retire, so you might have to get another edge rusher opposite Nick Bosa. But they do have good receivers. They have good running backs. They have a good offensive line. You just need that one piece, and that one piece is the quarterback position. And, I don't know where the Niners will go for that quarterback position. Kyle Shanahan seems to prefer veteran quarterbacks, so you might see like a Matt Ryan, who he is very familiar with after working with him in Atlanta. You might see there's been reports of Sam Darnold. I don't know if they want to do that and, gamble on a young quarterback and, have to rebuild his confidence. Or you could draft a quarterback like a Zach Wilson because you're not really going to get Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence from Clemson and Ohio State because you're not that bad to get those guys. So I just think the Niners, they have to focus on quarterback because this team is too talented right now to tank. And the quarterback is just the one missing piece for another Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah, and I agree. And sadly, I think that the Niners and Bears are both in the same spot. Great offenses, great defenses, but again, led by very shaky and iffy quarterbacks who are, sometimes they're like a light switch. They're on and off every so often. But again, folks, Niners and Packers from Santa Clara Thursday night to kick off week 9 of the NFL season. With that, Isaiah, with the other dysfunctional football team in the NFL, that is the Dallas Cowboys, of course, still dealing with their own issues, as mentioned. However, though, veteran quarterback Andy Dalton placed today on the reserve/COVID-related list today, but more so because of his concussion, as already mentioned, Isaiah. It has been a very disastrous several weeks for Dallas again, mainly more so post the Dak Prescott injury, Isaiah. We have seen this Cowboys ball club take a super sharp nosedive, and the plane and the free fall continues. And also as well that right now, of course, the Cowboys are on their third string quarterback. Isaiah, it's kind of gone from bad to worse to an all-time low, I'd say, for the Cowboys and Jerry Jones and the ownership group and their fan base. Isaiah, any thoughts to pass along and what this might mean for Dallas going forward?
They're tanking. That's what it is. The Dallas Cowboys are tanking. They're 2-6 right now. I know that, a lot of people are saying like, oh yeah, Dallas still has a chance to win the NFC East, but come on, man. They don't have a quarterback. They're starting, I think, either Ben DiNucci, who I've never heard of prior to Sunday night, or some guy named Cooper Rush, who seems like he's been in the league forever as a third stringer. And Ezekiel Elliott, he's always fumbling the ball. The offense just can't seem to get going. Offensive line, they have so many issues. The defense, it's been well documented, their issues. Dallas, they're just tanking. I don't see Dallas really going anywhere because now with you down to your third string quarterback, you're going to have to really hope that Ben DiNucci or Cooper Rush puts up a lot of points and has a great day every time he goes out on the football field, because your defense, let's face it, your defense is not going to stop giving up 35 points a game. They're just not, because they're just so damn bad. So for Dallas, I don't think they're going to make the playoff. They're just so bad right now, and I feel bad for Mike McCarthy because he's a coach in the NFL who's highly respected and who is highly experienced, and he's probably going to be one and done after the season if Dallas, let's say, finishes like 2-14 or 3-13 the rest of the way.
Real quick, Isaiah, some thoughts here, bud, from our resident Cowboys fan, Christy Wilson. This Cowboys free-for-all has been god-awful. If they're tanking, certainly not tanking for Trevor Lawrence. With that in mind, folks, I did some very quick research here via the trusty Wikipedia website, and have gone through all the seasons that the Dallas Cowboys have played pre the NFL-AFL merger and currently into where we're at right now. And just running through some of my very on-the-fly research here. The worst record for the Cowboys pre the merger, when there was just the NFL and AFL, was their inaugural season in 1960. The Cowboys went 0-11-1 in that 1960 NFL season in the Western Conference. They finished in 7th place that year, scrolling through a couple more of their seasons, and now into the current era of the current NFL. They also went 1-15 back in the 1989 season. So right now they're probably on pace to be this being their third worst record, probably in club history. Again, 0 for year, their inaugural season pre the NFL-AFL merger. They went 0-11-1 in 1960. Then also in 1988, I believe, 1989, I should say, 89, Dallas went 1-15. That season before, of course, they built that Super Bowl dynasty. But again, they've had two very unsuccessful seasons down there in the greater Arlington area. But more so, folks, I do think, though, that while that Dallas may have a chance, though, this division, though, is probably still going to be one that will be won with a losing record, much like we saw with Seattle many years ago, and they went 7-9 and beat New Orleans in that first-round playoff matchup, where they had gone 7-9, and, of course, to get to host a playoff game. That will probably be what happens in this instance right here as well, in regards to how Dallas has played, how the Washington team has played, the Giants, the Eagles, of course, who still right now are leading that division, even though, as mentioned, all those teams are below 500. But again, folks, Andy Dalton once more today placed on the reserve list and also the reserve/COVID-related illness list, but more so, again, due to that very huge concussion that was suffered, again, with that very blatant hit by John Bostic of the Washington football team roughly 2 weeks ago in Landover, Maryland. But once again, folks, just some of that research done. But again, the Cowboys have had again, Isaiah, I don't know if you caught that, man, but again, for the Cowboys, two very bad seasons. So this will be like their third worst season of all time. Again, they had one pre the merger. They went 0-11-1, then had one, ironically, during Troy Aikman's rookie year. They went 1-15. So this will be probably the third worst season in Cowboy history.
Wow, that's crazy, man. That's wow. The Cowboys wait only 3 losing seasons since the 80s.
Only 3 times they've had 2 or fewer wins in a season. Right now, they're sitting at 2-5. Right now, they've had a 1-win season and an 0-for-win season pre the merger. So pretty good for Dallas. At the same time, though, I mean, you're looking at also 3 straight years of 5 and 11 years. Isaiah 2000, 2001, 2002, 6 and 10 in 2014. And of course, 3 straight 8 and 8 years, of course, as well in 2011, 12 and 13. As always, that's always the case. But again, they went 1 and 15 back in 1989. Again, ironically enough, Aikman's rookie season, and again had a 0-11 and 1 record in their inaugural campaign before the merger as the Cowboys in 1960. But also, that is where we are currently at right here today. But again, hopefully that things will get better for Andy Dalton and his health. And again, Christy agrees so that the 88 season was, ironically enough, Troy Aikman's rookie season. And right now, the Cowboys currently 2-6 on the Major League season, or at least on the NFL season. But again, anything, folks, can happen with how this division has been so far for the NFL. As mentioned, the Cowboys, once again, folks, putting Andy Dalton, their second-string quarterback, again on the reserve/COVID list earlier on Tuesday. With that in mind, Isaiah, Major League Baseball decided that Tuesday, November 3rd, was a great day to announce the 2020 Major League Baseball Rawlings Gold Glove Award winners in both the American and National Leagues. A couple of surprises, a couple of guys that probably stood out, though, in people's minds. Isaiah, well, first, buddy, start, though, with the American League winners of the Gold Glove Awards. Actually, we'll just go position by position for both leagues, the American League first and then the National League. Winning the Gold Gloves this year, folks, at the over at first base, Evan White of the Seattle Mariners and Anthony Rizzo of the Cubs winning it at first base. Cesar Hernandez and Colton Wong winning it for both at second base with the Indians and Cardinals. J.P. Crawford of Seattle and Javi Baez of the Cubs winning at shortstop. While over at the hot corner, it was Nolan Arenado and Isaiah Kiner Falefa from Texas winning it at third base. Across the outfield, from left field to right field, Alex Gordon of the Royals retiring, winning a Gold Glove in left field, while Tyler O'Neill of the Cardinals won the left field, also the left field Gold Glove. Out in center field, a very surprising center field vote. It's Luis Robert of the White Sox and Trent Grisham of the San Diego Padres, somehow, some way, outdueling Cody Bellinger and Ronald Acuna Jr. to win the Gold Glove in center field. Out in right field, Joey Gallo of the Rangers and Mookie Betts of the Dodgers win it for right field. Winning it behind the plate at catcher was Roberto Lopez of Cleveland and Tucker Barnard of the Reds winning it for the catching spot. And also on the mound for pitchers, it was Griffin Canning of the Angels and Max Fried of the Braves winning it for the National League Pitcher Gold Glove Award. So, Isaiah, a couple of maybe surprises, a couple of guys you probably thought were going to be there. But, Isaiah, if there's maybe a couple of guys that surprised you that won a Gold Glove tonight, who would those players be and why?
For me, it's got to be Evan White and also Joey Gallo, because when I look at the AL first base, I don't want to take anything away from Evan White. He's a good hitter. He's also a good defensive player. But I really believe that Matt Olson should have won it for the American League. And I know it might seem biased, but the reason why I think Matt Olson should have won it for the Athletics is because – or should have won it for the American League side of things. It's because, Matt Olson, he was phenomenal defensively for the Oakland A's. And I watched every single A's game, so I know what I'm talking about. Matt Olson is so good defensively. I mean, without Matt Chapman at third for the majority of the second half of the season, he saved a bunch of runs from our third basemen that were there, either Jake Lamb, you had Chad Pinder at one point, that were just making erratic throws after erratic throws. So I honestly believe that Matt Olson should have won it. I was really shocked that he didn't, but I think a lot of people probably was tired of Matt Olson consistently winning it, since I think he was a back-to-back Gold Glove winner. But, Evan White was a surprise. Joey Gallo was another surprise, because when you think of Joey Gallo, you don't think of him as a good defensive right fielder. You think of him as a guy that's a great power hitter. So I was really surprised by that. And I would say also maybe Cesar Hernandez as well. Like Cesar Hernandez was a guy that with the Phillies, he was one of the worst defensive players in the Phillies organization, and he gets cut by the Phillies, and he goes to Cleveland, and voila, all of a sudden the guy's winning Gold Gloves. So it just goes to show you that the Phillies coaching staff and the player development staff were absolutely rubbish in Philadelphia.
You know, I'm going to agree with Isaiah, but I'm going to go with Trent Grisham of the Padres winning again. Bias aside, though, but again, he beats out Ronald Acuna Jr. of the Braves and also Cody Bellinger of the rival LA Dodgers, which of course set off a Twitter firestorm with Walker Buehler saying LOL to Bill Plunkett's article about Grisham winning it. But I think I'm more so surprised about that one. But also, I would say, Isaiah, troubling as well, I think, if you are a National League West fan, seeing Nolan Arenado, who missed majority of the season, still win the Gold Glove at third base over the likes of Manny Machado with the Padres and also Brian Anderson of the Marlins. But the main reason I say that I think that the votes went this route, though, I think it was a very valid point, though, that Carl Ravitch and Mark Teixeira brought up on Baseball Tonight during the show on ESPN, though, Isaiah, was that the vote this year was not the usual vote of media and players and coaches, because since everyone was confined to their own division and their interdivisional opponents, it all went based on the numbers and not with votes done, because you didn't get to see the entire league play because you only saw, your division and plus the other teams in the other division. So Isaiah, do you believe that perhaps that may have perhaps hurt players' chances of winning votes this year because it was based solely on numbers and not based off of their peers and fellow managers and media members in the game?
Yeah, I do, because when you have writers and players that vote for, they know what they're talking about and what they're watching. I know the numbers might say one thing, but a lot of the times, numbers are misleading. That you could have a good a stat sometimes the numbers, they're just misleading, and I just think that they should have had the players and the writers vote on it. Unfortunately, they couldn't because of the pandemic, but they should have had the players and the writers vote on it because they just know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and again, I think it just more so sadly is just another one of the ramifications of a very interesting baseball season again that had to endure a 60-game regular season, outbreaks amongst two ball clubs, an outbreak during the course of the World Series clinching game and the whole firestorm with that, and of course as well. But again, folks, congrats to all the Gold Glove winners. Some thoughts here, Isaiah. James Gonzalez writes in, Joey Gallo, how did that even happen? I mean, that's what I thought as well. And also James says, yay for Canning winning the Gold Glove, the only Angels accomplishment this season. As also should mention that Mike Trout was not voted as a MVP finalist in the season this year for the American League, which is a very surprising story, but also that Machado was also garnered votes for National League MVP as well. And again, Nolan Arenado somehow wins the Gold Glove, but again, by virtue of the season, again, he takes over both Brian Anderson and also over Machado of San Diego. With that in mind, Isaiah, to blow the minds of NBA basketball fans, reports folks trickling in that, yes, James Harden has been linked to potential trade talks going to the Philadelphia 76ers. That is correct, folks, per reports gathered earlier today from some of the senior NBA writers. But again, folks, that is per reports gathered, as mentioned. But James Harden perhaps could be dealt away from Houston to the Philadelphia 76ers to build a team around both Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Isaiah, I do not fully think that this is going to go over very big, though. I would think that pretty much the Sixers would have to give Houston practically all future draft picks, maybe a Philly cheesesteak, maybe a free pass at the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall, and maybe a chunk of their franchise to really, I think, make this deal worthwhile. Because Isaiah, I know, of course, that maybe that James Harden has a great relationship with Daryl Morey away from the floor, though. But Isaiah, I don't know, though, if this is really going to work very well, man, in regards if this actually does happen. But also, I don't think, though, that the Rockets would be that stupid to deal away a franchise staple and a franchise player for the past several years away to, where one of their former employers just went into to Philly. But Isaiah, the talk's probably not getting traction. At least it's out there, though. But Isaiah, Any thoughts here again, perhaps about James Harden being linked to the Sixers for next season?
Absolutely laughable. That's my thought on it. When I saw this report, I just laughed because I knew that there was no way that this trade was going to happen. Yes, I know that Daryl Morey is now the general manager of the Philadelphia 76ers. Him and James Harden have a great relationship dating back to their days with the Houston Rockets. But if you're Philly, you're going to have to give up at least either Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid to make this happen, because there's no way that you're only going to give up draft picks to get a superstar like James Harden. So you would have to start with either Simmons or Embiid. And I don't even know if Simmons would, like, if the Rockets would want him, considering his value is really low right now. So I think you would have to start at Embiid. And Daryl Morey has said that, you know, he wants to build a team around Embiid. But I think Embiid would have to be a starting point, and then you probably would have to do what the Clippers did to get Paul George, which is throw in like 7 straight years of first-round picks. And I don't think Philly is that stupid to mortgage their future for the next 7 years. So, no, I don't think that this trade is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because, you know, both these teams are dumb, but they're not stupid, and they're not that stupid to make this kind of a transaction. I get that there may be logic behind it, but I don't think that this is going to work for either club. Again, you're talking about 2 franchises right now kind of going in polar opposite directions, or at least in opposite directions right now. One team in Philadelphia in a very winnable Eastern Conference against a Rockets team up against the world pretty much with the Clippers and the Lakers, Golden State getting back on their feet. You know, Dallas looking very good. You know, Oklahoma City maybe being there, as well as the Spurs also lying in wake, though. But I don't think this is going to happen. I think that Christie says it right, though, Isaiah, that the Sixers would have to throw in the entire everything plus the kitchen sink to get James Harden. What would you add on to that point?
I think if the Rockets were to trade someone, and I've heard in the rumors that they could. I don't think it would not be James Harden. I think that it would be Russell Westbrook instead of James Harden, because Russell Westbrook and James Harden, even though they're really good friends and, you know, they kind of seem to be able to coexist with each other, you're not going to win a championship with James Harden and Russell Westbrook as your tandem, because Russell Westbrook, the guy just can't shoot the 3, and the 3 ball is valued very high nowadays in the NBA. He's good at shooting mid-ranges and floaters, but hey, those aren't really valued as highly as the 3. So I just think you know, Russ and Harden, their ceiling is the second round and out. So I think that the Rockets, they are going to make a change, which I'm not sure if they are willing to, because Tillman Fertitta, their billionaire owner, has already said that, you know, he's committed to that core that they have, and he wants to win with that core. I think that the logical trade would be to trade Russell Westbrook and see what you can get for him and get his bloated contract out of your payroll.
Some thoughts here, Isaiah, about this. James says that Harden would become hated by those Sixer fan bases. Again, Philadelphia, along with San Diego, a place where usually pro athletes' careers go to die, sadly. And also, James says, in order for Harden to win, he's got to go to a winning team where he can be in the back seat and just score points, not have to. And I think it's a valid point, though, because Houston is kind of, in a way, Houston has been so huge, or they've been pretty much holding him hostage because he's been like the lone guy to score points for that club, in my opinion, where I think he would have to go, where if he goes somewhere else, he can probably breathe, relax, and kind of, you know, not have to worry about scoring all the time. And also, James says that Westbrook would be loved by Sixer fans because of his theatrics. That definitely, I think, goes to show as well. Finally, Isaiah, for tonight's program, that of course remains, the man remains the ongoing deliberations. That is the start date for the 2020-2021 NBA season. Now, Isaiah, we've heard a lot of things going on here in regards to how, in fact, the season may, in fact, work. We've heard about, you know, a Christmas Day start. We've heard about a MLK weekend start. We've heard about a 72-game season. We have heard about a in-season tournament. Trying to pull up some stats and numbers here. But also, Isaiah, some reports, though, earlier as of Monday, that the NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, per ESPN sources, has pretty much boosted urgency on a deal for the NBA to start sometime pre or on Christmas Day. Per the reports gathered from ESPN.com from Adrian Wojnarowski and Zach Lowe, discussions with the NBA, with the league and the Players Association continued over the weekend into Monday, but the union's reluctance to agree to a December 22nd start date and a reduced season schedule has left the league fearful it has only several days left before opening training camps around December the 1st for a pre-Christmas tip-off is no longer a realistic possibility per sources telling both Woj and Zach Lowe. But optimism still exists, though, that an agreement can be reached on the pre-Christmas start, but it has been tempered in recent days, also per sources with the NBPA Executive Director, Michelle Roberts, and union leadership have been talking directly with players about starting the season so quickly after a mid-October finish to the finals in the Orlando bubble, and so far have expressed a preference for a mid-January start date for next season. The NBA believes that there is somewhere between $500 million to $1 billion in revenue losses next season and beyond by failing to start the season sometime in December. You know, Isaiah, this kind of in a way reminds me a little bit of the 2010, 2011 NBA lockout where we had the very condensed season, started around Christmas Day or on Christmas Day, kind of, where again, right now at this point in time, player health and safety has got to be of paramount proportions, but even magnified by 1,000 because of what we are still sadly facing right now on a day-to-day basis. And it's not getting any better, Sally, with how things have looked so far. But Isaiah, I know, of course, that revenue is one big talking point, but Isaiah, your thoughts here again about right now somewhat of the stalled NBA talks to get next season off the ground and running for their 75th anniversary season sometime either in December or sometime in January.
I think the owners are being greedy. I really do, because the players just finished a season a month ago. They played the entire year. Yes, they had like a 3-month layoff in between, but still, they went a whole year of playing basketball, and now you want to restart the season like a month and a half after or 2 months after the season ended. I think that's just ridiculous, because the players, I've said this before, they played into October, especially the Lakers, the Clippers, and all these teams that went to the bubble. They need time to rest, refresh, and get their bodies right for next season. You can't just have them rest a month and or a month and a half and just throw them into the fire for next season. Players are going to get hurt because they've had to put so much mileage on their bodies this entire year to play basketball. So I think right now what the NBA should do is start the season on MLK Day. You can give players more rest. You can give teams more time for free agency and the draft and whatnot. Or honestly, for my preference, I want the NBA to start in February. I think that would be the best time to start, because you would not have to rush everything, and you would give the players enough rest to get their bodies right for next season. Plus, if you start in February and let's say you go until June, or let's say you go until April, you're not even going to be playing that many games anyways, and it would be better because you would probably have to schedule. You would probably have to do what baseball and the NFL, or not the NFL, baseball did, which is play a regional schedule with the West or the Pacific. The teams of the West Coast, they play in their own regions, and I think that would be better for the NBA, because right now, if you're starting on Christmas, I guarantee you every team is traveling from West Coast to East Coast and East Coast to West Coast. You're going to see a lot of positive COVID tests because of that. So I just think the NBA should either start on MLK Day or take my idea and start in February.
I would go with January, Isaiah. February, for me, just seems to be way out of proportion for an NBA schedule. I know, of course, it's going to be a condensed season. I believe that the player's going to sign on for a 70-game, 72-game season. And as I have said, though, keep it inside the conference only, West versus West, East versus East, no crossover this year, again, due to, again, what's been going on in regards to the travel. Again, you can keep this pretty much, I think it's very, basically, it's a bubble environment like what baseball did, but not without the actual bubbles. But again, more so, you catch my drift here again. Pac division plays the Northwest and the Southwest, simple as that. You got 3 conferences. You can make this pretty much within a 2 time zone range, and you are golden in my mind. But I think, though, January for me sounds more logical. But also, that it just seems to me, though, that if it's going to be a December start date, Isaiah, it seems to me to be a very rushed operation. The draft coming in November. I believe in 2 weeks, we have the draft coming up on November 18th. Then we've got training camp probably opening up the week after Thanksgiving, and then trying to get games started on or around Christmas Day. I mean, what are you going to do about preseason games? Probably play those games. But I do think, though, Isaiah, I can see, though, why the NBA would go the route of a December start date, because I know that it may be greed, Isaiah, but we've already seen the ramifications, though, of no spectators being at any games over the past several months in certain markets in regards to baseball. Again, $3 billion combined, I think, lost by all 30 clubs. NBA, looking at maybe $500 million to $1 billion in lost revenue there. I'm sure the NHL took losses. Major League Soccer's taken losses. The NFL's probably taken losses in some markets too. So, Isaiah, I get about the greed, though, buddy. But at the same time, though, there's a whole nother can of worms that we're opening up here with a start date either not really set in stone. There were kind of a floating start date. But, Isaiah, it may seem rushed, though. But I do think, though, that perhaps that the finances not being in order for all these leagues, though, are of paramount proportions as well as player health and safety. But, Isaiah, do you agree, though, that more than likely that the NBA probably is more so going the route of the money more so than anything else in your mind right now?
Well, to that I say, yeah, you're going to, even if you start the season on December 25th, let's say, you're still not going to have fans in the arenas. There's no way you're going to have fans in the arenas. So I get you're going to get money from TV, but you're still going to be losing a lot of money. So I just think January is a better start time, because maybe by then we can have a vaccine that we could have a vaccine in place, and teams could slowly allow some fans to get back into the arena and wear their masks and stuff like that, so they could maybe minimize the loss of money that they're about to occur.
I mean, agreed. And I also heard some reports today that the South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball team would be allowing 3,500 fans into their home game starting this in roughly at this rate, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Once Thanksgiving rolls around again, the college basketball season, folks, will be kicking off on November 25th, or at least that is the start date for all the schools to begin play and begin operation. But with that, folks, we actually, Isaiah, had one quick comment here that came in, or two of them that came in. First, from my buddy Ron Davis, who says that James Harden will be in the Hall of Fame purely as a scorer, but he is never winning a title as a featured piece. Again, with more so him being the main guy in charge down in Houston. And also Christy Wilson agrees, though, that the best start date for the NBA should be sometime late January, or at least MLK Day weekend, for the NBA to get back to operation and celebrate their 75th season of basketball come either December or in January. With that, though, folks, we'll now wrap things up for the night and segue over and get into tonight's final thoughts. Time to close down the polling place here, folks, on this Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, to wrap up this Tuesday night of programming and also another successful night here on the MI6 Sports Network. Isaiah, we'll go to you to kick things off for your final thoughts for the night's program. What do you got for us, buddy?
Callan, I am so glad that we got over the finish line. I'm so glad I got over the finish line, because for the last two topics, I was experiencing that crash that you get after, drinking coffee and, that crash. I was experiencing that crash, and I barely held it together. So I'm really thankful that I was able to drag myself across the finish line. But before I get into my final thoughts, I just want to thank Tyler Work, Christy Wilson, Shardot Gupta, Ronald James Davis, James Gonzalez. Let's see. Do we have any other viewers out here? Joseph, and well, yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to thank you guys so much for viewing our program today and giving us so much love and support. We really, really appreciate it. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow for another wild episode of Wild Sports Talk featuring myself, Callan, and John Mathis. We will be on the air starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. And ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say something real quick. No matter who wins tonight's election, no matter who wins, please don't go out and, shoot people or, break down break down stores and stuff like that. Please don't do that. You're giving America a really bad look when you do that. I know that, the person that you want to win might not win and you're feeling angry, but please don't go out there and riot and set fires to the street and break police cars or and just like massacre people. Please don't do that. We really want this country to be great, and like I just don't want to see all this violence that is going like that might happen post election.
Please do not be Vancouver Canucks fans. That's all I'll say. If you need to find out why, go on YouTube what happened in Vancouver after losing the Stanley Cup Finals 3 times in franchise history. One quick comment here, Isaiah, about the NBA again from Tyler Work. Got to imagine that the Olympic Committee would want the season to start sooner so they can still have the possibility to play in the Olympics in 2021 in late July in Tokyo. Very fair observation as well, so I definitely agree on that aspect. Of course, folks, a major thank you as usual to all of our viewers. Hopefully we're able to perhaps provide you with an hour of some sports talk. Hopefully get your mind off what's going on, of course, with the election and politics for at least one night. But of course, folks, we'll have plenty more coverage as time does go on. Again, as mentioned, John, myself, and Isaiah back on air 7:30 p.m. tomorrow night on Wednesday, back here on the MI6 Sports Network. And again, hopefully having a great program. And also, folks, you mentioned we have reached out to 4 very cool guests via the gram. So we'll see what we get. We've gotten 2 responses so far, but we're looking at hopefully 3 or 4 for what hopefully will be some very insightful and thoughtful and very awesome guests, hopefully sometime in the not too distant future here on the program. But of course, folks, also want to again, folks, say thank you again for the milestone we hit over the weekend. But again, folks, that was us hitting 1,500 Anchor listens via the Anchor podcast app. Now, folks, we want to say thank you as of today for 1,600 Anchor podcast listens. So again, folks, we thank you again sincerely and wholeheartedly for, again, all of your amazing your loyalty, your viewership, your listenership. Again, it does not go unnoticed, folks. And again, we cannot say enough great things about that. And Isaiah, only 400 more listens till 2,000, buddy. Who would have thunk it, right?
Exactly, man. Who would have thought that would happen when we first started this network back in July when Callan and John came over to this network and joined us? I think we were sitting at 99 listens at that time. I might be wrong on that, but from 99 all the way to 1,600 in a matter of months is unfreaking believable, man. We've been on this really, really cool rise the last couple months, and we really hope to continue this momentum as we head down the stretch of this year and into next year.
So again, folks, thank you again. And as a reminder, folks, you can catch all of our podcasts via the Anchor podcast app. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on your podcast app. Again, we always have it, folks, on the screen. But again, just search for us across your platform. Again, whether it's Spotify, Apple, you name it, we're there. And again, folks, please subscribe. And if you want to leave 5 stars, we greatly appreciate that too. But again, more so the listens is all that really matters to us, not the ratings. But again, folks, we'll see you folks back here on a Wednesday night, as mentioned, with myself and Isaiah, and also our good buddy John Mathis again for another episode of Wild Sports Talk coming your way at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday. And then we'll have plenty more coverage, folks, and plenty more content on Thursday, Friday, and of course, we're back on the night shift, folks, on Saturday and on Sunday. Till next time, folks, have a great rest of your night. Take care. Please stay safe and stay healthy. We'll see you folks back here, as mentioned, for WST Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. back here on the MI6 Sports Network. Till next time, folks, have a good rest of your night, and we'll see you folks back here on Wednesday. Till then, good night. Bye-bye.